The Great Hall of the Galactic Concord was the most beautiful place in the known universe. Giant crystal pillars rose up to a ceiling made of living light. The floor was smooth like glass and showed the stars below. 47 different species had built this place together over thousands of years. It was meant to show their power and their unity. Ambassador walked into this hall with her head held high. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. Behind her walked 12 other humans in their best formal clothes. They looked tiny in this massive space. They looked weak compared to the alien beings that watched them from floating platforms above. The aliens came in all shapes and sizes. Some were tall and thin like walking trees. Others were short and covered in hard shells. Some floated in tanks of strange liquids. Some had no bodies at all and existed only as patterns of light. All of them had one thing in common. They all looked down at the humans with something between curiosity and disgust. Had prepared for this moment her entire life. Humanity had finally built ships that could travel faster than light. After centuries of looking up at the stars and wondering if they were alone, humans had found the answer. They were not alone. The galaxy was full of life, and now humanity wanted to join the great family of spacefaring species. The prime speaker of the Concord floated down from the highest platform. Hi-Ra was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. Her body was made of flowing light in colors that had no names in human languages. She had ruled the Concord for 3,000 years. To her, human civilization was barely a blink of an eye. "You are the representatives of the species called humanity," Ra said. Her voice was like music and thunder at the same time. "You come from the planet called Earth in the Sol system. You wish to join our Concord." "We do," said. Her voice was calm and steady. "We come in peace and friendship. We wish to trade, to learn, and to grow alongside the great species of this galaxy." Ra made a gesture and a hologram appeared in the center of the hall. It showed Earth spinning slowly in space. The blue oceans, the green and brown land, the white clouds. "We have studied your world," Ra said. "We have studied your species. The Concord has discussed your petition for membership." Felt hope rise in her chest. Humanity had waited so long for this moment. "Your petition is..." The words hit like a physical blow. Around her, the other human delegates gasped and whispered, but kept her face still. She had learned long ago to never show weakness. "May I ask why?" said. Ra waved her glowing hand and the hologram of Earth changed. It showed volcanoes exploding. It showed hurricanes spinning across oceans. It showed earthquakes splitting the ground open. It showed predators hunting and killing. It showed humans fighting wars against each other. "Your planet is classified as a Class 12 death world," Ra said. "The gravity is crushing. The weather is violent. The other life forms on your world are designed to kill. Disease runs wild across your continents. Your own star bombards you with radiation. By all logic, intelligent life should never have evolved on such a planet." A strange sound filled the hall. It took a moment to realize what it was. The aliens were laughing. 47 species were laughing at humanity. "You are too primitive," Ra continued. "Your species has existed for only a few 100,000 years. You have had for less than 3 centuries. You still fight wars among yourselves. You still die of diseases. You are barely 100 years. Some of our member species live for." More laughter. A creature that looked like a giant floating jellyfish made a comment in its own language. Whatever it said made the others laugh even harder. "You are also too violent," Ra said. "Your history is written in blood. Your entertainment celebrates death and combat. Your children play games about killing. Even your sports are based on conflict. You are barely more than animals." Listen to all of this. She listened to the laughter. She watched the aliens point at her and her people like they were exhibits in a zoo. She saw the disgust on their faces. She saw how they looked at humans the way humans might look at insects. And she smiled. "I understand," said. Her voice was still calm, still steady. "Thank you for your time and consideration. Humanity withdraws its petition for membership." She bowed with perfect politeness. The other human delegates followed her lead. Then they turned and walked out of the great hall. Behind them, the laughter continued. One alien, a creature with 6 arms and skin like burnished copper, called out after them. "Go back to your death world, primitives. Come back when you have evolved into something worth talking to." Did not respond. She did not look back. She walked with dignity until she reached the human shuttle waiting outside. Only when the doors closed did she allow herself to speak. "Get me a secure channel to Earth," she said. To the United Terran Council, Priority 1. What are you going to tell them? Asked one of the younger delegates. His name was, and his hands were shaking with anger. What do we do now? Sat down in her chair. The shuttle lifted off and began the long journey home. Through the window, she could see the massive stations and ships of the conquered. Thousands of years of civilization. Thousands of years of peace and progress. And they had looked at humanity and seen nothing but animals. I am going to tell them the truth, said. I am going to tell them that the galaxy thinks we are primitives, savages, violent beasts from a death world. And then what? Turned to look at, her eyes were hard like diamonds. Her smile had no warmth in it. And then we are going to show them what beasts from a death world can do. The shuttle entered fold space and vanished. Behind them, the Galactic Conquered continued with its business. The 47 species quickly forgot about the primitive humans and their embarrassing petition. They had more important things to think about. Surely those death would stay in their little corner of the galaxy where they belonged. They had no idea what they had just done. They had no idea what was coming. 100 years passed. The Galactic Conquered continued as it always had. Trade ships moved between a million worlds. Diplomats argued about borders and taxes. Scientists made discoveries. Artists created beauty. The 47 species lived their lives in peace and comfort, protected by the great civilization they had built together. Sometimes someone would remember the humans. A young scholar might find old records of the strange death who had asked to join the conquered. A historian might mention them in a lecture about primitive species. But these moments were rare. Humanity was a joke, a footnote, nothing more. The Sol system remained quiet. Conquered scout ships would occasionally pass by and take readings from a safe distance. They reported strange things: massive construction in orbit around Earth, mining operations across the asteroid belt, energy signatures that did not match any known technology, but the conquered leadership did not care. What could primitives possibly build that mattered? They are probably killing each other again, said Hira when one scout captain brought concerns to her. Let them play with their toys. They will destroy themselves soon enough. All violent species do. The scout captain accepted this wisdom and returned to his duties. He had more important things to worry about. Everyone did, because something dark was growing at the edge of conquered space, something that would change everything. The hegemony of had been a small empire when humanity first visited the conquered. They controlled only a dozen worlds and mostly kept to themselves. But over the past century, they had changed. Their leader, a being called the Eternal, had united the warrior clans under one banner. He had built a war machine unlike anything the galaxy had seen in 10,000 years. And now he was hungry. The first attack came against a conquered border world called 3. It was a peaceful planet of farmers and artists. They had no weapons. They had no soldiers. They had not needed such things for thousands of years. The fleet arrived without warning. Within 6 hours, the planet was burning. Within 12 hours, it was dead. Every man, woman, and child of the 3 million who lived there was killed. They did not take prisoners. They did not negotiate. They simply destroyed. The conquered responded with outrage. They sent diplomatic messages demanding the withdrawal. They threatened economic sanctions. They called for emergency meetings and passed resolutions condemning the attack. The Eternal responded by attacking 5 more worlds. Now the conquered sent its fleet. It was a grand fleet, beautiful and impressive, ships made of crystal and light, weapons that had not been fired in anger for centuries, crews who had trained for ceremonies, not combat. The Battle of the Meridian Reach lasted 2 hours. The conquered lost 400 ships and 50,000 lives, the lost 12 ships. Panic spread across the conquered worlds. Species that had never known fear suddenly learned what it meant. Planets that had never built weapons scrambled to create defenses. But it was too late, far too late. The advance continued. World after world fell. The great civilization that had ruled the Orion Arm was crumbling, and the 47 species who had laughed at humanity now cried out for someone to save them. Hira stood in the same great hall where she had rejected the human petition a century before. The crystal pillars were cracked now. The living light in the ceiling flickered and dimmed. Outside, the fleet was approaching the conquered capital world itself. There was nowhere left to run. We have sent requests for aid to every ally, reported her chief advisor. None can spare ships. They are all fighting for their own survival. Then we are lost, Ra said. Her light was fading. Her ancient body was failing under the weight of despair. After 10,000 years, the conquered will fall. There is one option we have not tried, said a young aide. She was small and nervous, barely 100 years old. We could send a general distress call to everyone, every spacefaring species in the galaxy. You mean the unaligned species? Ra asked. The primitives we rejected, why would they help us? Because they might be our only hope, the aide said, and because we have nothing left to lose. Ra was silent for a long moment. She thought about all the species she had rejected all the petitions she had, all the races she had called primitive and unworthy. She thought about the humans and their death world and how the whole conquered had laughed at them. Send the message, she finally said. Send it to everyone, even the death. The distress call went out across the galaxy. It traveled through fold space and normal space. It reached thousands of worlds and hundreds of species. Most did not respond. Some sent regrets. Others simply ignored it. But one species received the message and called an emergency meeting of their own. In a massive underground chamber on Earth, the United Terran Council gathered to discuss the call for help. They mocked us, said one council member, an old man with a mechanical arm. They called us animals. They laughed at our ambassador and sent her home in shame. Yes, said another council member, a woman with white hair and cold eyes. They did all of those things, and now they are dying and begging for help. So what do we do? The chamber was silent. Every human in that room remembered the humiliation. Every human on Earth knew the story of how the conquered had treated them. For 100 years they had worked and built and prepared. They had turned their anger into fuel. They had forged themselves into something new. The woman with white eyes stood up. She was Admiral, commander of the Terran Combined Fleet. She had been born in space, trained for war since childhood, and had never known fear in her entire life. We help them, she said. Why? Demanded the old man. Why should we save those who despised us? Admiral smiled. It was a cold smile, but there was something else in it too, something that might have been pride. Because that is what humans do, she said. We survive, we endure, we protect those who cannot protect themselves, even if they do not deserve it, especially then. That is what makes us different from them, that is what makes us human. The council voted. The decision was unanimous. Deep in the shipyards of Mars and the factories of the asteroid belt, lights began to turn on. Engines began to warm up. Soldiers began to board their ships. The fleet was going to war. The sky above the conquered capital world was burning. Warships filled the darkness like a swarm of angry insects. There were thousands of them. Their hulls were black and covered with weapons. Their engines glowed red like demon eyes. They had surrounded the planet completely. There was no escape. High-Ra stood on the observation deck of the last conquered defense station. Around her, the surviving members of the 47 species huddled together. Some were crying. Some were praying to gods they had not believed in for centuries. Some simply stared at the approaching fleet with empty eyes, waiting for death. How long until they attack? Ra asked. 2 hours, her advisor replied. Maybe less. The Eternal is enjoying our fear. He wants us to suffer before the end. Ra nodded slowly. Her light had grown dim over the past weeks. She was dying. Her ancient body could not handle the stress and grief of watching her civilization fall. Soon it would not matter. Soon they would all be dead. Did anyone respond to our distress call? She asked, though she already knew the answer. No, no one is coming. A young technician at a sensor station suddenly stood up. His forearms were trembling. His voice cracked when he spoke. Something is happening, he said. There is a fold space signature forming behind the enemy fleet. Reinforcements for someone said bitterly. More ships to kill us with. No, the technician said. His eyes were wide with confusion. This signature does not match technology. It does not match any technology in our database. It is something else. A hole opened in space. It was not like the gentle ripples of conquered fold space technology. It was not like the harsh tears that ships made. This was something different. Space itself seemed to scream as reality bent and twisted. The hole was perfectly black, darker than the void between stars, and it was huge. Larger than any fold space portal ever recorded. And from that darkness, a ship emerged. The first thing everyone noticed was the color. The ship was black, not the decorated black of but a pure, absolute black that seemed to swallow light itself. The second thing they noticed was the shape. It was angular and brutal. There were no curves, no elegance. Every line spoke of one purpose and one purpose only: war. The third thing they noticed was the size. The ship was over 2 kilometers long. It dwarfed everything else in the system. Even the largest dreadnought looked like a toy beside it. A transmission cut through all frequencies. Every being in the system heard it at the same time. The voice was female and human and calm. "This is Admiral of the Terran Combined Ship Perseverance. We received your distress call. We are here to help." Silence filled the observation deck. No one could speak. No one could move. They just stared at the massive human warship that had appeared from nowhere. Then the fold space portal flared brighter. More ships emerged. 10, 20, 50, 100. They kept coming, pouring out of the darkness like a river of black steel, destroyers and cruisers and battleships, carriers loaded with fighter craft, support vessels and troop transports. Each one was covered in weapons that glowed with barely contained energy. 200 ships, 300, 400. The fleet had arrived. The commander, a massive creature called War Chief, stared at his sensors in disbelief. His species had conquered 100 worlds. They had crushed every enemy they had ever faced. They did not know fear. But as he watched the human fleet arrange itself into battle formation with mechanical precision, he felt something cold crawl up his spine. "What are those ships?" he demanded. "Where did they come from?" "Unknown, War Chief," his sensor officer replied. "The technology does not match any known species. Wait. We are receiving a transmission from the lead vessel." Admiral's face appeared on the... She was an older woman with dark skin and gray hair cut short. A scar ran down the left side of her face. Her eyes were steady and showed no emotion. "This is Admiral to the fleet," she said. "You will withdraw from this system immediately. You will return all conquered territory. You will release all prisoners and pay reparations for the damage you have caused. You have 1 hour to comply." War Chief laughed. It was a harsh sound like rocks grinding together. "And if we refuse, human, what will you do? Your ships are impressive, but we have numbers. We have conquered species far greater than yours." Admiral did not smile. Her expression did not change at all. "If you refuse," she said, "then you will learn why our planet is called a death world. You will learn what 100,000 years of survival has made us. You will learn why every predator on our world learned to fear us, and you will learn why that was a mistake." She leaned forward slightly. Her eyes were like black holes, pulling everything into their depths. "We do not conquer, War Chief. We do not enslave. We do not play games with the lives of innocents. But when we go to war, we do not stop until the war is over, completely over. So I will ask you one more time. Will you withdraw?" War Chief cut the transmission. He turned to his officers with a snarl on his face. "All ships attack formation. Destroy the human fleet. Show these death what real warriors can do." The fleet surged forward. Thousands of ships moving as one, their weapons charging, their crews hungry for battle. They had never lost a war. They would not lose this one. On the observation deck, Hi-Ra watched the human fleet hold position. They did not retreat. They did not seem afraid. 400 ships against thousands. "They are going to die," someone whispered. "They came to help us and they are going to die." Ra said nothing. She just watched. And somewhere deep in her ancient heart, she felt something she had not felt in a very long time. Hope. The Battle of Prime was about to begin. The first ships opened fire at maximum range. Thousands of energy beams and missiles streaked across the void toward the human fleet. It was enough firepower to crack a planet in half. It was enough to destroy any fleet the Conquered had ever built. The human ships did not move. Admiral stood on the bridge of the Perseverance, watching the incoming fire on her tactical display. Her crew worked their stations with calm efficiency. No one panicked. No one even raised their voice. "Defensive systems active," reported her weapons officer. "Point defense engaging." The space around the human fleet came alive with light. Thousands of smaller weapons fired in perfect coordination, creating a wall of destruction. Missiles exploded before they could reach their targets. Energy beams were absorbed by shields that glowed and held firm. Not a single human ship was destroyed. "Our turn," Admiral said. "All ships execute attack pattern Omega. Show them what we have learned." The fleet moved. On the observation deck, Ra watched in stunned silence as the human ships accelerated at speeds that should have been impossible. They moved like predators, like wolves hunting prey. There was no hesitation, no fear, just cold, calculated aggression. The first human weapons fired. They were not like anything the galaxy had seen before. Massive hurled projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. Energy weapons cut through shields like they were made of paper. Missiles that seemed almost alive hunted their targets with terrifying intelligence. Ships began to explode. "Impossible," whispered Ra's advisor. "They have the strongest ships in the galaxy. Nothing can destroy them so easily." But the evidence was right in front of them. In the first 10 minutes of battle, the humans destroyed over 200 vessels. The black ships wove through enemy fire with impossible grace, always moving, always attacking. They fought as one organism, each ship knowing exactly where the others would be. War Chief screamed orders at his fleet. He had never seen anything like this. His warriors were the terror of the galaxy. They had conquered 100 worlds, and now they were dying like insects. "Focus fire on their lead ship," he commanded. "Destroy the flagship, cut off the head." 500 ships turned their weapons on the Perseverance. The human flagship was hit by enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The ship rocked, alarms blared, damage reports flooded in from every section. But the Perseverance did not die. Its shields flickered but held. Its hull was scorched but unbroken. Human engineering, born from a world that tried to kill its inhabitants every day, had created something almost impossible to destroy. And then the humans did something that changed the battle forever. "Launch boarding parties," Admiral ordered. Across the fleet, hatches opened. Small craft poured out carrying human marines toward the enemy ships. They saw them coming and laughed. Boarding actions were suicide. Everyone knew that. Even if you reached the enemy ship, you would be outnumbered and... The first Marines reached a battleship. They did not use airlocks. They did not look for weak points. They simply cut through the hull with plasma torches and jumped inside. What happened next would become legend. There were large creatures twice the size of humans. They were covered in natural armor. They had claws that could tear through metal. They had fought hand-to-hand combat for thousands of years. The humans killed them anyway. Warriors rushed to meet the invaders and found something they did not expect. The humans were not afraid. They moved through the ship like ghosts, using tactics born from a million years of hunting and being hunted. They worked in perfect teams. They never stopped moving. They never hesitated. And they would not stay down. A warrior slashed a human marine across the chest. The wound was terrible. Blood poured from torn flesh. Any other species would have collapsed and died. The human marine shot the warrior in the face, applied a quick bandage with one hand, and kept fighting. This happened again and again across the battle. Humans took wounds that should have been instantly fatal. They lost limbs and kept shooting. They were poisoned by venom and simply fought through the pain. Their bodies, evolved on a death world where everything was trying to kill them, refused to give up. They began to feel something they had never felt before: fear. On the observation deck, Ra watched the battle data with growing amazement. The human marines were capturing enemy ships, not destroying them, capturing them. They were turning the enemy's own weapons against them. "How is this possible?" she asked. "How can such a small species defeat thee in close combat?" A young human liaison officer had stayed behind when the fleet arrived. He stood beside her now, watching his people fight. "We evolved on a death world," he said simply. "Every creature on Earth is designed to kill. Every disease is trying to destroy us. Even our own planet tries to shake us off with earthquakes and storms. We have been fighting for survival since before we could walk upright." He turned to look at her with eyes that held no judgment, only truth. "You called us primitives because we were violent, but violence is not our weakness. It is our strength. We learned to fight so that we could protect. We learned to kill so that we could save. Every human soldier out there would die to protect innocent lives, even yours, even after what you did to us." Ra was silent. She had lived for 3,000 years. She had seen empires rise and fall. She had thought she understood the universe. She understood nothing. The battle raged for 11 hours. When it was over, the fleet was broken. Over 2,000 of their ships were destroyed or captured. War Chief was dead, killed by a human marine in hand-to-hand combat. The humans had lost 63 ships and 4,000 lives. Admiral stood on the bridge of the Perseverance, looking at the field of debris and wreckage. Her face showed no triumph, only sadness. "Send medical teams to the conquered stations," she ordered. "Begin rescue operations for any survivors, including, and get me a channel to the enemy command." The surviving leadership appeared on screen. They looked broken. They looked afraid. "This is Admiral," she said. "Your fleet is destroyed. Your war chief is dead. You can surrender now and face justice for your crimes, or you can continue fighting and be wiped out completely. Choose." They chose to surrender. The war was over. 1 year had passed since the Battle of Prime. The galaxy was slowly healing. Conquered worlds that had been conquered by the were being rebuilt. Refugees were returning to their homes. The dead were being mourned and remembered. It would take decades, maybe centuries, to fully recover from the war. But there was hope again, because of the humans. The Great Hall of the Galactic Conquered had been repaired. The crystal pillars stood tall again. The living light in the ceiling glowed bright and warm. Representatives from all 47 species had gathered for the most important meeting in their history. They were waiting for the humans. High Ra floated at the center of the hall. She had nearly died during the war. Her light had almost faded completely. But human medical technology, shared freely with the conquered, had saved her life. She would live for another 1,000 years, and she would spend every one of those years remembering what she had learned. The great doors opened. Ambassador walked into the hall. She was 127 years old now, but human life extension technology had kept her strong. Her hair was white as snow. Her eyes were still sharp as knives. Behind her walked 12 other humans, just as before. But everything else was different. There was no laughter this time, no whispered insults, no looks of disgust. The 47 species watched the humans walk forward with respect, with gratitude, with something that might have been fear. Stopped in the center of the hall, exactly where she had stood a century before. She looked up at Ra and waited. The silence stretched for a long moment, then Ra spoke. "Ambassador," she said, her voice was soft, humble. 100 years ago you came to this hall seeking membership in our conquered. We rejected you, we mocked you, we called you primitives and animals, we laughed at you and sent you away in shame." She paused. Every being in the hall held their breath. "We were wrong," Ra said. "We were fools. We judged you by the harshness of your world and the violence in your history. We did not see the strength that harshness created. We did not see the courage that violence taught you. We did not see that you were not primitives to be dismissed, but protectors waiting to be called." She lowered herself until she was at eye level with the human ambassador. It was a gesture of respect that she had not shown to anyone in 3,000 years. "You came when we called. You fought our enemies. You died for species who had treated you with nothing but contempt. 4,000 of your people gave their lives to save ours. And when the war was over, you asked for nothing in return. You simply began helping us rebuild." Tears of light fell from Ra's form. She was crying. "I do not know how to apologize for what we did," she said. "I do not know if any apology could ever be enough, but I will try. On behalf of the Galactic Conquered and all 47 member species, I am sorry. We were wrong about humanity. We were wrong about everything." Stood still for a long moment. She thought about that day a century ago. She thought about the laughter and the insults. She thought about the anger she had carried home with her and the words she had spoken to the Terran Council. She thought about all the humans who had died in a war they did not start, fighting for people who had despised them. And then she smiled. It was not the cold smile she had worn before. It was warm, it was real. "Thank you," she said simply. "We accept your apology." A wave of relief passed through the hall, but Ra was not finished. "The Conquered wishes to offer humanity full membership," she said. "Not as a junior species, not as petitioners, as equals. We offer you a permanent seat on the High Council. We offer you command of the Conquered's combined military forces. We offer you access to all our technology and knowledge and resources. Whatever you want, it is yours." The other delegates nodded eagerly. Some called out their support. After what the humans had done, nothing was too much to offer. Raised her hand, the hall fell silent again. "We are honored by your offer," she said. "Truly. But we do not want command of your military. We do not want control of your resources. We do not want power over the conquered." Confusion rippled through the assembly. What else could the humans possibly want? Then what do you want? Ra asked. Looked around the hall. She looked at all the different species, all the different forms of life. Some were beautiful, some were strange. All of them were watching her with hope and uncertainty. We want partnership, she said. We want friendship. We want to stand beside you as equals, not above you as rulers. The universe is vast and dark and full of dangers. There were just one threat among many. There will be others, and when they come, we want to face them together. She took a step forward. You were right about one thing a century ago. We are from a death world. We are violent. We are dangerous. But we have learned to use that violence to protect. We have learned to turn our danger into a shield for those who cannot protect themselves. That is what we offer the conquered, not conquest, not control, protection. Look directly at Ra. You called us animals, but even animals can be loyal. Even animals can be brave. Even animals can love. We came to save you not because we wanted revenge for the past, but because we heard your cry for help and could not ignore it. That is who we are. That is what humanity means. She extended her hand, an old human gesture, an offer of peace. So we do not ask for power or control. We ask only to be your friends, your partners, your guardians, if you will have us. Ra looked at the extended hand. She understood the gesture now. She had spent the past year learning everything she could about humanity, their history, their culture, their endless capacity for both violence and compassion. She reached out and took his hand in her own glowing appendage. We will have you, she said, gladly, gratefully, forever. The hall erupted in cheers, 47 species celebrating together, celebrating the end of one era and the beginning of another, celebrating the friendship that had been born from mockery and forged in war. And across the galaxy, the word spread. Humanity was no longer the primitives from the death world. They were no longer the animals to be laughed at and dismissed. They were the guardians, and the universe would never be the same.